So this is the first green bond that will be listed by Nigeria. It's actually the first on the African continent. And I know that the NSE has also been in the forefront of trying to get companies to buy into the idea and, of course, just to drive that whole initiative of investing in environmentally friendly projects. Why is it so important to the NSE?
Well, it's very important to the NSE because the NSE is at the forefront of driving adoption of the implementation of the SDGs. As you know, we're members of the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, and we've bought into the idea that exchanges are the intersection between investors, issuers, policymakers, and the rest of it. So we have a role to play to catalyze the financing of the SDGs. So coming home to Nigeria, we are driving environmental, social, and governance imperatives, and so it's only natural that we would also come up with products that support such imperatives. As you know, there is a big gap, infrastructure gap. I think there's an estimate of about $10 trillion that is needed over the next 30 years to fill that gap. And so, using tools such as green bonds that are targeted at specific infrastructure projects, such as energy efficiency, such as, electricity that is clean and things like that, seems like it's the way to go.
How would you say, or what has been the feelers from market participants? I mean, it's a green bond. It's not something that you wake up one morning and then you hear the NSE say, we'll listen to green bond. What's been the feedback so far?
Feedback has been very positive. As you know, we've been in the forefront of driving the green bond initiative, right from when we proposed the idea to the then Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed. And she took the ball and ran with it. And we've brought the entire ecosystem together to make this happen. So people are understanding the nuances of green bonds, how they can be efficient. People are understanding the quantum of financing that is dedicated to ESG imperatives. And therefore, because there's a lot more supply, for example, than demand, the yields for issuers is lower than your regular conventional bonds, for example. So the reception has been very positive. People are really interested in seeing how green initiatives can be adopted and how it can facilitate the implementation of their own business strategies.
And there have also been conversations around incentives, possible incentives for green listings. What are your thoughts and what should investors look forward to?
I think that tax incentives will be the way to go to start because going green is very consistent with Nigeria's objectives. Nigeria is a signatory to the Paris Agreement, with regards to climate change. So doing things that are environmentally friendly should be supported, and one of the ways to support them is to give tax incentives to issuers that go the green way. Another way to support green bond issuers is perhaps grants. So if you look at countries like Singapore, for example, they've allocated about 100,000 Singaporean dollars to qualifying issuers that issue green bonds. So grants would be another way to support it. Education, just getting people to be aware of the positive impact such tools like green bonds can have in coming up with climate-friendly infrastructure projects and the rest of it could also be another way to go.
Okay, I'm happy that you mentioned education, but let's quickly talk about implementing green finance regulation and building the enabling framework. I imagine that's very important too.
Oh, very critical, and that is why we formed the Green Bond Working Group, which includes as its members the Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria and the Debt Management Office. And one of the outputs of that working group already is the regulation that the SEC has proposed around green bonds, so the SEC rules on green bonds. Another thing that is important to note is that the exchange itself has also come up with guidelines around the issuance of green bonds and how they fit into our entire fixed income listing framework. And, we believe that with that kind of clarity, it makes it easier for issuers to bring this product to market, and also easier for investors to be able to assess the investment opportunity and make their investments.